Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome to Worcester Council Theater 3000. Happy Nicole Valentine's Day, everybody. It's great to be here.
I hope we're going to do that. Can we really make sure that happens tonight? We have to get somebody down there to guarantee us that happens.
Sounded like George made a real push for it. I don't know. Was it on the agenda?
I didn't look to see if it was on the agenda. I'll do that now.
Yeah, it's a two-hander tonight. It's me and Brendan. We are each other's Valentine's dates here this evening with all of you. Welcome, everybody. We're so dedicated to bringing the show to you all that we told our significant others to cram it.
Yep. They're on their own.
They're just busy. They're actually just too busy for us. So
yeah,
we get to be here. Hi, Matt. Hello. Welcome. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody who celebrates. It's, people often say that, Valentine's Day is a manufactured holiday created by the card companies. And as the city where the first commercial Valentine's Day cards were manufactured and exchanged, it's nice once again to be in the seat of deceit. We love to be here in Worcester, the seat of deceit. So yeah, it's part of the Commonwealth, strong Valentine's connections. What this city of love, Paris of the 80s, etc.
Port-au-Prince of the 90s. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that we should be proud of.
Yeah, this is what a town. Brennan, anything major that we're looking at tonight from your
I'm just curious what happens if it comes back up with the body cam regarding viewing footage. I don't know. I shared it in our private chat. I don't know if you can share it with the group. There's a really interesting story that came out of LA this week about the way the LA police, when they have like a shooting or any sort of incident, they basically, maybe because it's Hollywood, they basically re-edit their body camera footage and turn it into like a cinematic release. And that really has their own outcomes. It doesn't have anything to do with reality. And I think that's what a couple of the counselors were trying to get at last week is you give somebody even the opportunity to view that footage after an incident. It gives somebody the opportunity to rewrite their narrative, which I guess in a way is nice. It's going to match up with reality, but it also misses the point entirely that if we're trying to make the argument that some instances will be avoided because of body cameras,
right,
that initial narrative is the important factor.
Yeah, the truth is probably a good thing to strive for, which doesn't really feel like what the police are striving for in this instance. They're not after the truth here.
I've had this conversation with two different people recently that I think it's important for us to acknowledge as well too. Like, I've never been one to really care much about like who like proverbial good guys or bad guys are. The only thing I'm interested in is like what's real, right? Like, and I feel like sometimes as a city, that's what we get so wrapped up in is like the last couple of years, police as an industry have felt under attack, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's irrelevant. Like, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt, but like nobody gives a shit. We're just like interested in like what's real and what's true. And yeah,
I agree. I 100% agree. And I think that that whole, I'm sure that there's a large number of people on the force in general that legitimately feel like they're being, being attacked or whatever, blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is no one in this city especially is like this, if they're crying foul about what's going on in Worcester, I mean, we're taking it easy on them. We're just asking for like a small amount of accountability, which a major amount of accountability is what should be, and we're not even asking for that. We're just asking for something. So yes, and again, I do, I think it is it's a political tactic in many ways by the police industrial complex, the prison industrial complex. They play these games so that they have the strongest lobby of almost anything in the United States. And they want to keep their funding and they want to get more funding. They want, you know, they want to keep making money. They don't. It's not even about like when you get to that level. It's not even about like true believers or anything like that. They don't give a shit. It's just they're trying to keep the the cash machine going. So
yeah.
There's no reason not to fight for this stuff on our level because we're not actually hurting anybody. We're helping, and we're not doing anything bad to anybody. We're not threatening anybody's job or anything like that. It's just
we sacrificed our Valentine's Day to be here and keep eyes on the police. That's so no harm being done here.
Yeah, very interested to see what comes of that tonight. Yeah, it felt like last week that there was a lot of nibbling at something, like kind of dancing around the subject or trying to approach a subject from a certain angle without giving up too much or without the ability to kind of meet it, like talk about it head on. So
right,
that usually portends something interesting coming up. So
we got to see some of that at the public safety meeting, which I don't know if anyone in the chat tuned in, but that was, it was kind of fascinating for another reason than it was. Councillor Toomey was basically there by herself, where I was remote.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just hanging out with cop buddies and but saying out loud, like, yeah, we really need to pay you guys more for using these body cams.
Right.
Articulating how her family members who are part of the union leadership were really upset that they started moving forward with body cameras without talking to them first. It's like, man, like
just laying it out there, Kathleen.
But I guess to your point, like in the larger body of the council, sometimes you just get a hint of that.
Right.
And then when it's small group, it's like, good Lord, do these people realize anyone's paying attention?
They don't think that, they think that no one is. They honestly do. Yeah. They're like hot mic moment for anybody that didn't see the public safety meeting last week. They spoke openly for around 10 minutes pre-meeting.
Yeah.
On hot mics on their video capture. And that's, that seems like if a crazy thing for a city councilor and a police force to be doing. The smartest people on the police force, higher ups on the police force doing that is crazy.
And even just from an optics perspective, right? Like, it's a small city. Of course, everyone's going to know each other. But like, if you get called in for a Senate hearing to testify in front of the Senate, right? Like, it wouldn't be expected that you're going to be hanging out back with everybody in advance.
4 votes
right.
When we get to that moment.
So they just got going now. Petty just announced they're holding 12A and 12B and item 17 on the agenda. So
speak for no more than 2 minutes.
I'm trying to pull
and
up
your
here.
name, city of residence,
what that
and
is.
Item number.
Hi, Worcester's favorite grandparents are here tonight.
So they're holding the spray park coming soon sign
couple weeks ago. I
item, and
I felt fine, but just making sure.
And the item on warming and cooling
thank
centers.
you, Mr. Mayor.
That's
Fred
being
Nason,
held.
Worcester. So even though you're holding it, I just want to make a comment about 12
And something about
So I don't know if people really quite
support. Bill
grasp,
gave us a
what's
note
being
about
asked
this.
here, and I certainly don't. So
Support staff for the
under
city
the
council.
item
17.
they was looking for information on the 7,000 plus units of housing, how that will affect the inclusion stuff that they're trying to push forward. And I don't really quite know how that's going to all play out. But if and when you guys get an actual verdict on it, I hope everyone.
I believe that's what he said. He said 12A and 12B.
What's going on? And 12F. I would like to say I've lived in the city all my life.
In the back top left corner.
And it is unfortunate
that villain
that Worcester.
Who allowed her in that room?
I don't know if it's worse than other cities
keep her out of that room
potholes, but it's definitely right up there. I've just about seen buses, fall into potholes and you don't see the end of them. So maybe that's the reason why the city has to pay the WRTA so much money. We keep on losing buses. We keep on losing cars. At some point in time, Mr. Mayor, I hope no bodies fall in there because they may not ever be retrieved. So if we can keep up patching them.
Joe
and
Petty just
hopefully
openly
there
laughing
won't
at
be
him.
any bodies that will wind up in
think
these
so.
potholes because I'm afraid they may not ever be found again.
Okay, I'm going to
Thank
text
you.
Jenny
I
now and tell her
appreciate
she's
it. I
got
think
something
you're
on her
better
shirt.
than
Let's see if
George
she's
Russell
paying
won't be-
attention
He'll
to
be hard to top
the
that one.
outside world here.
Idella has a good way to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Only trying to put-
Wow.
9, no, that's,
It's
I think
fucking
it was
chucklehead tonight.
7F? No, 9F. I
Don't
think that. we
frame Jenny
should
out, okay?
be Considering youth employment now and trying to figure out how we're going to do it and get as many youth
Ridiculous. Absolutely
employed
ridiculous.
as possible. That's something that is very necessary. I also think it's a good time for the city to start thinking about how we're going to open the pools instead of busing the youth to the state pool, which is
How would we
already
describe this thing
overcrowded.
that's
The
hung
lines
around
were going way down the street,
Idela's neck?
and they were only allowed in the pool for sometimes
is this
45 minutes
An
to an
infinity
hour,
scarf?
where families
that what that's
were
called?
making
Yeah, it's
the
it's
whole
from the
day out of
Marvel
the pools,
universe. There's the
city
Infinity
pools.
Gauntlet and the
So
Infinity
I
Scarf.
think we should start figuring out
Yeah,
how
see?
we're going to do that.
There it is.
In the past, we've got businesses to donate money. So if we started looking into
Someone
that
is
now, we might be able to do that. Our youth need to be able to do
Heavily
something
breathing
during the
into a
summer,
microphone and laughing
besides
and
sports,
like
recreation in the pool, because there's only
it's
so
on
many
their
people,
end.
so many kids that can get on the teams.
It's not
in
me.
the
I thought it was
pools,
me.
to cool them off and family time. So I'd like to see that happen. And if you can still do the sports teams too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for everybody who's going to speak. We'll get to your item in a second. And anybody online?
Sorry, no one has raised their hand on the virtual.
Oh, there's our
platform. If
Valentine,
anyone wishes
Nico.
to,
There he
you
is.
can raise your
Hi,
hand
Nico.
on the Zoom platform.
We love you.
Okay.
Seeing none, Mr. Mayor, I think that concludes
There he
virtual
is.
participation.
Okay.
Oh, they drew their shades.
They knew. They heard.
So we'll come back to the executive session at the end of the meeting. Hearings and orders. The motion is open the hearing for 8A and 8B. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Anybody opposed to 8A or 8B? Seeing nobody opposed, the motion is to close the hearing. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. The motion is to adopt. Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Caloria?
Yes.
It would be fun to
Councilor
just
G.A.?
propose those every
Councilor
time.
King? Councilor Merrill Carlson?
Just for fun.
Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera? Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes. 9A, the motion to refer to Public Works. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. 9B to 9E, motion for the traffic and parking. Those in favor, opposed, so ordered. 9F, Bill Coleman requests council requests the city manager hold a public forum to facilitate public discussion, suggestions for safe summer youth employment opportunities events. Mr. Coleman, it's your name and city of residence.
Bill Coleman, Worcester. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. What I'd like to do is suggest that the council send a suggestion over to the Worcester Public Schools, to our superintendent, that she might have the student government associations in our high schools have a discussion about what they'd like to see for a safe summer. Due to social media and everything else that's been happening around the country, our young people are hearing some grim news that are happening. I mean, every single day we're talking about 70 mass shootings and all kinds of stuff. We don't want that. We want to keep our communities busy. We want to keep our young people busy. But this particular year in the city of Worcester, rather than looking at what Boston is doing,
Yeah,
what
closed
Brockton,
captioning is not
Springfield,
not hitting
Bedford,
tonight. What?
what they're all doing for the summer, let them say, well, you know, Worcester's coming out with a plan to talk to their legislature to get some money in the budget before the end of the fiscal year to provide more opportunities for young people to have summer jobs. May it be affiliated with city departments. May we reach out to our Chamber of Commerce to talk to businesses to have a way where they can hire young people and young people can have a grand opportunity this summer, but also have
Isn't
a
it
chance
cool
to
that,
make
like,
money. So,
the internet
you know,
just doesn't
sending
really
that
work
over to
anymore.
the student government, you'd be surprised.
It was so
I've
awesome
been
for so long.
speaking in
For
churches
so
and I've
long.
been talking to young
I blame
people,
TikTok.
and
I
I am
mean,
impressed by
like,
their
most websites
willingness
just
to
don't work.
come
Yeah.
up with some creative opportunities, and they often say, how come nobody ever asked us? So let's ask the young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Send that to the manager. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered.
Gross.
Adopt.
Gross.
Ordered.
ACAB,
Change
motherfucker.
resolution.
Barf.
City Council City of Worcester does hereby support the emergency management disaster response and
The
recovery.
short blue
FEMA.
line.
Roll call.
Council Bergman.
I'm just kidding.
Council
It's
Caloia.
always nice to meet a fan, Stephen Gould.
Yes.
Council GA.
Yes.
Council King.
Yes.
Council
That'd be
Carlson.
fun to play.
Yes.
Council Nian.
Yes.
Council Rivera. Council Rose.
Yes.
Council Russell.
Yes.
Council Toomey.
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes. 12F, request the man provide the council with a report concerning the reasons why potholes have recently taken so long to fix. Council
You know why?
Mr.
Website down.
Chairman, you're right, I can't top Freddie. I just can't. But the bottom line is this item that I put on as I spoke to the manager a few days ago, I said I wasn't intent was not to take a shot at the administration, because I feel like I've been on the phone more with Assistant Commissioner Coyle via text and phone calls or whatever than I have with any commissioner in recent history. And I shouldn't have to. And I don't know what the breakdown is, if it's a breakdown in communication, because
I'd like to thank
of
City
the,
Hall staff for getting
customer service team has moved
the George
to a
Russell
different
screen
department
back in
outside
its
Public
proper
Works,
position.
or if it's
Reception is very important to us.
a
And
staffing issue. If we need more staff,
we thank
need
you for
more
your work.
funding, I don't know what it is, but I'm just putting it out there publicly and asking the administration to come back at some point with a report.
With this new hand motion, it's like he's playing catch with
as to
himself.
How this can be corrected, because it has been difficult in the last few months. Maybe it's just the weather.
yeah, see you
Maybe
later,
it's the
pal.
warm weather that's caused, freezing and unfreezing and all that kind of stuff, and there's more.
We're not
potholes.
anti-police. We're
For
pro
some
accountability.
reason,
So
this
you
year's
keep listening
year
if you are too.
had a lot of trouble
But
filling
I
it.
just,
And it's not
I
only
would guess
actual-
by your desecration of the
The
flag that
whole-
you're not.
When you put an item in and it takes a week, 2 weeks, I just said to a constituent, I said, if you put something in and you go through the normal channels and a week goes by or so and nothing happens.
Very interested
feel free
to know
call
how
me and I'll
someone
be happy
found
to
us
chase it down
and
for you.
thought we were
But
pro
what's
police.
happening is I'm putting them in.
Like,
a
I understand
week
not
and
knowing
2
where we
or
stand.
3
It's
weeks
probably my
are
hat.
going by, and
Thank
I'm
you.
calling again and
Could have been my
again,
hat.
and wondering
Pro
why.
cop.
So, thank you.
So send that to the manager. Council Toomey.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
I mean, we
There's
do
also,
feature
I'd
Kate
asked the
Toomey a
manager,
lot on this
I'm
channel.
not
So
the
maybe
manager,
that's what it was.
the Commissioner of Public Works to look at, there's a new type of pothole fill that supposedly is a far superior product than what we have. And I've noticed that some of the potholes that have been filled have not exactly been tamped down
Oh.
as well as they could be. So if we could get a report back on the new type of fill for
What is
potholes. that'd
Mo
be great.
Bergman doing
Thank
right
you.
now?
Okay, thank you.
Sign language.
Council
Oh,
Bergman.
hell yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the order. I don't know the
Anything?
process being any different this year. I know that oftentimes Mr. Fink gets well-deserved compliments on how DPW handles a number of operations, and I certainly will wait for his explanation. And I understand and respect the fact this isn't a criticism, but an observation. I too have seen a lot of potholes, but I rise because I wanted to, and I hope my colleague Council Russell will allow me to add something to his order, which I think is an excellent order. For me, years ago, this issue came up, and I still am unclear as to whether or not there's been any change. And the issue is as follows. It's my understanding that when DPW goes out to fill a pothole on a work order, there's a pothole nearby and there's no work order. That pothole that has a work order gets filled, even though the vehicle is filled with asphalt and the drivers are there and carbon monoxide's in the atmosphere, and it's just as easy to take an extra few seconds and fill the potholes that are nearby, and their liability issues because if somebody calls in and then the car gets damaged, the city's on the hook for that. So I think there should be a priority to change the policy. If it hasn't been changed, it's my understanding that it hasn't, that if you're going out to a certain area, whoever's doing the repairs should look within a certain number of feet. And I don't know what number that is. I'll leave that to DPW.
Ooh,
But
that
if there's
could
a
be
pothole next to one you're filling,
could be
it
very
shouldn't be
fun
ignored just because there
to
isn't a work
look
order.
back
I
on
think
in 2
that makes
years
no
and like,
sense.
well, we need to
I think that's
extend
been the previous policy. and I can
pothole
stand corrected. Maybe it's been changed.
radius
but if it hasn't
by
been changed, since we're
10
talking
feet
about filling
because we
potholes,
missed one.
to me, it makes complete
And they
sense.
can talk about that for 3
Once you're out
months.
there to fill whatever you can see around you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Imagine if
Councilor Rose.
that's the way everything worked. Like you went into the hospital to have a tumor removed. They saw a couple extra tumors while they were in there. Like, well, that one isn't on the list. Like, we're not gonna touch those.
Right.
Maybe even running into the same
Let us know if it
potholes
becomes a
day
problem
after
down the
day.
line.
I think there's also this assumption that somebody else called it in.
What
People
there's
are like, "Oh,
apartments going on the
someone's
roof of
that, or someone's
Walmart.
doing that." I think that we should
I think we had
consider
proposed that a
methods
couple
for
weeks ago. It's
asking
hard to keep
people
track,
to
but I'm
push
pretty
on
sure that was a
social
Bill
media and
Bill
through
Shaner
various
proposal.
media
We
outlets
talk a
saying,
lot of
"Here's
shit.
another hole in the pothole," and
We'll
really
get an
pushing them so
update,
that we can
Slender.
get ahead of it in that regard. Because I genuinely
Bill's
feel
not here
that
tonight
in
because
neighborhood meetings,
I don't know.
people are like,
Apparently,
"Oh, that same
it's a
pothole over
holiday
there,"
today.
and someone's like, "Oh, I thought so-and-so called it in, and so-and-so was going to call it." And I think just an effort, like even if you think that somebody called it
Right.
in, please report it so no car gets damaged or nobody gets hurt. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So send that to the manager along with Council Toomey.
A lot of
and Councilor Wiggins'
I gotta say, a
amendments.
lot of responses
Those in
to
favor,
our
opposed, so ordered.
Instagram stories about who people would want to
Next time, request the manager.
choose from the
Commissioner
city
of Public Works and Parks
council
implement an
meetings as their
emergency
Valentine
notification
were
system,
just
notify
out and out
residents and
horny.
businesses relative to emergency
Just straight
orders
up horny.
for work. Council Hajia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that Councilor Bergman also wanted to co-sponsor this. So
Councilor
this
Bergman.
came as a result of a couple of constituents on Mill Street who experienced some backup into their homes or interruption of water services. And what I'm trying to get at this is, and I don't think it needs to go to committee, probably can be just figuring out a better way for us to communicate with residents. Similarly, when Verizon was laying out files, a lot of folks were were confused. They didn't know. So maybe we can figure out a way that we could, especially if it's long-term projects, we could
I'm moving
notify
there.
our residents ahead of time if there's any issues, instruction from the company that needs to happen. Maybe that could be part of the notification system. I know that not everybody gets the alert. Not everybody goes online, and sometimes things happen they need addressing. But if we can figure out a way that we could alert people to what they're about to experience, that way, if it goes in other districts or in other streets, residents, can know what happens.
Okay, we'll send that to Council Merrill. Council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So we've had similar issues as this that have come before our committee in Public Works. And I would have thought, but obviously not, I would have
Nice try,
thought
Candy,
as
but that
we
is not a
talked
city council
about
fit.
what
I
took
am so
place on
sorry.
Melican Street, back a few months.
If you added an accessory, then maybe.
About the notification,
Like an infinity
people
scarf.
not being notified, and it happened to be extremely cold, and by the time they brought the generators and such, and honestly, Councilor Russell, Chairman of Public Works, had the folks from the utility companies come in and they explained their process with Mr. Goodwin. And I thought that that was a process that when we talked about it that night, that it was going to be used throughout the city, but obviously
And an
not.
adorable
So
Valentine's
I
Day
think that
planned.
this is a great item to go into Public Works once again.
No, I agree.
For us
Listen,
to have the
I said it was
utility
a good effort.
companies come in
But
and
no.
have this conversation with Mr. Goodwin.
I have a
as
little
well.
more than that.
Thank you.
I don't want anyone thinking they can just like stumble into a city council fit.
Council Toomey?
Their effort is part of it.
Glad you remembered my name there, Mr. Chairman. So I actually had filed a similar order. Councilor
Oh,
Hajia
wow. Did
was,
you?
faster than I was, so I just want to sign on. But I also, for emergency communications through public safety, I think it's critical that we make sure that we have seamless communications with all departments, not just our police and fire departments. So I look forward to this discussion, and perhaps, we could have, perhaps like we could have some sort of a joint meeting or something.
We'll call it a city council meeting.
Possibly even at the department to talk about the issues rather than having.
We'll invite all the department heads to come in and
it can get done quicker.
talk about
We already
stuff they've
have
got going
several,
on.
Means of
This is good,
communication with
Eric.
citizens, number one.
That's pretty good.
Number two, it's an opportunity to also let people know what those alert systems are. And perhaps we
you guys want to hear my
should,
hot
when
take?
Our
the night?
DPW employees are going out, or
Are you
or
ready?
even when the
Bring it on.
Ready for my hot take?
Bring it on.
emergency crews are going out from
Joe Petty's not going to win the
utilities,
mayor's race
that
this
we
year.
give them
Nope.
information.
Okay.
And that perhaps maybe they
My hot take.
work with us, maybe they pay for some door hangers.
Now that
or something like that.
sports
So,
betting is legal in
without,
Massachusetts, can we
like
use
the
that to our
media
advantage
and
and
stuff,
like
that might
start
be helpful.
lines on just like crazy nonsense? Like, can
Councilor
we be
Bergman?
betting on politics?
We should. I mean,
Thank you,
technically
Mr.
we
Chairman.
can.
It's a good
They
order.
do that in
I'm
Vegas and
appreciate
stuff,
being
right? Like, I
able
mean,
to
can we just
sign on,
create
and I
our own?
also appreciate the
We
work
should. I
Council
mean,
XGI did
yeah,
to,
gambling's legal. We can start a book.
try to resolve the issue. The specific
It's a great idea.
example, though, I know it's happened in all the
I know a
districts
guy.
in probably different ways.
Yeah, screw Patreon. Let's just start a
Specific example
book.
here was on Mill Street, and the individual literally
There is a
had
website you
water
can
pouring
you
out of
can
his
bet on
toilet
politics.
because there was a high pressure.
That runs
Um,
through Vegas, though, right? Like, I mean,
sewage
we can do
cleaning-
this in Mass now.
cleaning taking
Yeah,
place
that's what-
on the
yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Had the
bring
person
some
had
skin to the
notice
game.
ahead of time, they would have or could have removed
Watch out,
items
man.
out of that
Um,
bathroom. And
Stephen
protected
Gould might be
property
upset with
value.
you.
And I think it
I'm
makes
ready to
sense
hear
to
that.
reverse
Guy is, he might
911
be a nice guy.
situation. I always like to repeat because I think it's worth reminding folks, we pay a one-time fee. It's my understanding per year for that. Whether we use it one time or 100 times, it doesn't cost us any more. So I'm a big fan of using the reverse 911, particularly if we can gear it towards a neighborhood. In addition, perhaps.
I think they're
the Commission on
overcomplicating
Public
things
Works,
with all
the Water
these,
Department can look
you know,
into, an
1-1
obligation on behalf of
numbers,
ourselves
911,
to
reverse
review
911, 311,
have to
411.
reach out
We got to
Right.
bring back
mail
the
or
city's air
email
raid
or
sirens.
text
They're all
message
still
to
up
the
on schools
neighborhood
and
to
whatnot.
let
Let's
them
think
know
back
that
to the Cold War.
be
You heard that air
aware of
raid
what's taking
siren?
place.
Oh
It
yeah.
happens
You
so
knew it was time to
often
get
in
weird.
your
It's
Do they still
ability to
do they
recover
still
when your
set off
property
the
gets
Saturday
damaged.
noon one up at the
It's a
airport?
whole mess.
No.
Whether you go through the system
No.
or the
I mean, that was my
subcontractor.
whole
It's
childhood.
one
I
of those
loved it.
examples where
I want to
an ounce of
bet with
prevention
my fifth grade
worth a
teacher
pound of cure. So I hope we
because
can put this
he
to bed
didn't
and
live
going
on
forward
he
avoid
didn't
these
live
types
on
of
that
situations.
side on the
Thank you.
south side of the city.
Mhm.
And one day he was
Thank-
up like around there and he was, came into school on Monday. He's like, I heard an
Councilor,
air
second
raid siren up
Yes,
up
I'm
by the
sorry,
airport.
Mr. Chairman.
And me and my
I
friend who
was
lived on Airport
on,
Hill were like, yeah, that's the Saturday
the
noon
next item.
thing. And he's like,
of
no way, no
Councilor
way.
IGI.
And we didn't have to do
So
homework for a
Okay,
week.
send that to the
could
We made a
we
bet with him.
forget what I said?
And then his mailman
But
told
we're
him that
going
we
to
were
count
right.
it. to-
I
We're going to
was
count your
We
time
just
to the
bring
next
that back
item.
into play. We don't have to
Before-
define what
It's
it
one of those
is.
nights,
It's just like if there's going to be a sewage
We're gonna
backup,
send that
you
to
know,
the
phone
manager.
service
All
might be
those in
down.
favor, opposed,
The only
just the area
problem, the only problem would be the air raid
So request
sirens
the
going
manager
off
look for the
every
appropriate
second of
representatives
every
from
day.
National
And
Grid to provide City Council
always
report
shut
relative to the
them running.
outages of February 1st, 2023 that affect the areas of Beaverbrook Park, Mayfield Street, Park Avenue. Said report should include a summary of National Grid protocols for dealing with emergency power outages, the communication plans to residents, businesses, and city officials, and how they're being handled future emergencies. Council IGI.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you,
Aw,
Councilmember
damn, Yenni.
Crossen, for reiterating that this has been discussed before, and in no way, shape, or form is the fault of Director Goodwin. In fact, he and I were texting back and forth.
fate is conspiring to just keep
as late
this
as 9
a
p.m.
regular
on that
date
day.
between me
But
and
what
Brendan.
was really confusing and frustrating
kinda
for
lovely.
me is that
It's the way
I
I
think
dream.
he was getting the wrong information from
No,
National
you
Grid.
haven't
The
missed
city
anything.
was getting
Jenny's in the
wrong
crowd. We were
information.
talking
So
about talking
at
crap
first
about
it
her.
was, just one
I saw
business,
some
and
little
then,
feet out in the
couple
hallway
days
behind Kate.
later,
I think
I
Jenny
had,
might have ran away. She was just there
that
to get on camera.
a resident who
Awful.
lost
Those child
I think
props
his
she's
tenants
dragging
lost
around with her.
power. Really, really super cold night.
Those aren't even her
And
kids.
so I don't understand why
know
National
it's like
Grid, they're making
people don't
tons
wanna
of
hear that,
profits
but those
right
aren't her
now.
kids.
They can afford to have a better communication system. So for this one, I would love it to go back to committee. It's not fair to our residents. It's not fair to our city representatives. I know that Director Goodwin was on the phone with them until midnight. It's ridiculous that we cannot get a simple answer. And also, we're heading into a really hot summer. This may happen again, whether it's winter or summer. I would really like to know whether National Grid can get their act together and they can come up with a really good emergency plan. So if this happens,
Once
not only
in
do
their
they
damn
need to
lives.
communicate, I'd like to know, how can our residents recoup some of the costs that they had to incur as a result of pipes bursting? We're clearly paying them a lot of money in electricity, so the least they could do is give us the right information.
Okay, so you want that to go to Public Works? Okay, Councilor Russell, it's up to you. Send it to Public Works and yeah.
Is Joe
Should have
rocking a
been-
sponsorship?
and tell you
That
the truth, it's
polar
getting
water
better.
bottle is so prominently placed tonight. Look at
Yeah.
that.
Don't worry, you
Got
definitely
logo
hits
on
the
it.
council, June Street, right through the whole area. was
Sorry,
out every
Polar,
other
sunk
week.
cost
But,
because this guy's losing.
So we'll send that to the manager, and I mean to the Public Works. All those in favor, opposed, so
Yeah, see,
ordered.
people are
Next is
obsessed with it
request
now.
the manager install.
There was a lot of
wayfinding
posts
signs
I
in
could
Lincoln
not
Street
share
neighborhood.
because they
Councilmember
were
Carlson.
too horny.
Yes, Mr.
That would be a
Chairman.
great,
These wayfinding signs
great
all
for
over the
Jenny to
city,
run on.
that
Promise
we
the
had put
parents
up
of District
maybe now
1
it might be a
a
couple
once a
years
month
ago.
district-wide sleepover.
Oh,
Take
yeah.
all
I
the
had
kids in from
brought
the
an
district, give the
order
parents a night off.
forth,
Lock-in?
last year about could
You ever do a
we
lock-in?
put one of these
No.
wayfinding
I was
signs
talking
in
about
the
this
Lincoln
on my
Street area.
podcast, and
The businesses over there, as
nobody
well
will.
as
And
the
I never did a
neighborhood
bowling
group
alley
have been
lock-in.
asking,
Man,
what about them?
incredible.
Identifying
What a night.
some of these
They
areas.
they
and
literally
it would
lock
be
you in the
great if
bowling
we
alley.
could do
Yeah.
this
Except this was like the early
the
2000s, so
Lincoln
they let
Street
kids out to smoke.
businesses.
Uh,
And Mr. Chairman, if I
it was
could
late
take
90s.
12J along
They lock you in the
with this
bowling
one,
alley. It's blacklight bowling, rock
because
and
it
bowl,
ties
Wow.
in, and this
and
is
then you just
really
like
talking
drink
about
soda,
the
eat pizza,
corridor
and
from
listen to
Ad
Incubus
Care up
and
to
bowl.
Britain
It's
Square.
like
Again,
They
this
do that
is
at
an
at Polar
item
Park
that
for
I had put
like
on
Boy Scout, Girl
last
Scout troop sort
year.
of things.
There
Oh,
are
really?
several
That's
of
Yeah.
these
I didn't know
tree
that's
pits
cool.
that have been
What do
It
you
empty.
is kind
do?
of cool. Well, they just hang out in the
Honestly, what's growing
outfield.
in there is weeds, and it's
I
a
guess that's fun.
collector for
Kevin Law
an
plays
awful
movies
lot
for
of
him.
trash. And we're really trying to clean up that corridor from the Ad Care up to Britain Square. And there's a lot of mom and pop shops along
Right.
that Lincoln Street
Yeah,
area.
that's what motives back then were, just trying to
really am
warn you.
asking the administration, and
You
I
should
did
not
have
go
a
here.
conversation with Mr. Antonelli, in fairness to him, about us replacing what used to be there, all these trees, because it would be great if those businesses, along with that neighborhood, could have some of these trees replaced that have been gone now for a couple of years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So take both items, send it to the manager, both
Mr. Chairman.
ING. Council Russell.
Mr. Chairman, I rise to sign on to this item, but to ask the administration to look at
Somebody handed in
not
an
only
article.
these areas that the Council, Merrill Carlson, has pointed out.
I love
well,
that we
well,
have this
because those areas
biannual
are
conversation.
in
Going
need
into the
of,
spring, we talk about the
attention
need
and
for
for
trees,
this,
and then
but
going into the
this
fall,
is
we
not an
complain
item
about
that is
leaf
only
collection,
Lincoln Street.
and somehow can't figure out how those two
Wayfinding,
things are
I've
intertwined.
talked about
It's
for a long time. You go up Grafton Street, there's nothing there. You go Quincy Village.
The city
there's nothing
council,
there.
as a body,
You go to other
has like
districts, other business
aphasia,
districts,
where they're just like
in the,
can only
around
live in the
city. So
moment.
it's- Yeah, I'd ask that you take this item into consideration, but also look at some of the other business districts. And the same thing with the wells for the trees. We talked last week about tree wells up on Vernon Hill that have been.
This wouldn't be an
empty
issue
for a
if they
long
hired
time
Bill
on Vernon
Shaner
Street
for
and
the tree
on some of
commission.
the side streets. So again, same kind of thing. but
Bill
just,
Shaner speaks for the trees, and
Thank
you are
So send it
scared
both
of
items
that.
to the manager. All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. We are on K. Request city manager, request city assessor, provide city council.
Yeah, if you're on the
report
side of
detailing
nothing
differences
happening,
as to how
then
houses on
you
private roads
constantly
are
win.
assessed compared to
Just
similar
encourage them to keep talking.
properties on public roads. Councilmember Carlson, Council
You
Bergman.
do need to do that.
Yes, Mr. Manager. So this
We
item
know that the
here,
mayor has
actually,
a top hat he can borrow.
I'm probably going to need to amend it. Oftentimes, we talk on the council about when we're making a lot of our private roads public, and you always hear the terminology that their property it'll increase in value. Mr. Chairman, most of these private roads today, at least in D2, we're finding that these private roads are in such tough shape that we can't even get emergency vehicles down these roads. We have a road that's in the district on Locust Ave. There's just a really short piece of Locust Ave that is private. The mail carrier has made a decision not to deliver the mail any longer to these homes on Locust Ave, that private section.
Federal
We
government
have
has
another
abandoned
street in the
Worcester.
district that's
Citation needed.
Hawkins, and there was a woman
What
who
are,
lived on that
what on earth
street
are you
that
talking about?
I
quite
need to see a
honestly
citation on
needed,
that one, Candy. I'm
an
sorry.
ambulance
Fucking
to
Christ.
take her back and forth to her appointments that was terminal. And they made a decision that they could
Neither
no
rain
longer
nor
pick her up
snow
there
nor sleet or
because the
hail,
road
but
wasn't
trees.
accessible
But
and
fuck Worcester.
passable. I think that
But
we as a city
but
need to
private
take a look
road.
at some of these roads that are getting to the point. We also have another one down right off of Sherbrooke into Lakeview where the school is. There's a road down there that continuously, very small section that continuously just gets, the holes are getting bigger and bigger. It's washing out the sidewalks. It's washing out the crosswalks that each year we're asking DPW to go down there and replace the metal plates for the handicap accessible, along with painting
but
the
they didn't
sidewalks.
just say like,
I'd really
oh,
like
we're
for
like the postal carrier wasn't like,
to
hey, I'm
take
done
a look at
with this
our
road.
private roads.
I think,
You know, whether it's a glimpse at the private roads and what is it that we can do, and how many of these roads really have become inaccessible for folks, because over the
it is fun
years, I mean, I
sometimes
could
to
go
think
on.
about Worcester as a place
Over
that
by
like
UMass, we have another
there's
couple of
just
homes over there
lawlessness
that,
at certain
again,
points. Like
it's the same
there's just parts of the
story
city that like no
that
one has
when
ever
we're
seen.
looking for somebody
Like
to
no
be
one
picked
goes
up,
to.
the ambulance drivers are saying, I can't get down that road because they're in such tough shape. So appreciate the administration.
Oh, we got it. That
taking
thing
a look at
is
that.
I'll go send that to the manager.
primo,
Brian.
baby.
Go
It's
send
brand new.
Council
We should go get it right
Rose.
now, actually.
Want to sign on? Go sign on. And
You can afford to pay the
maybe as an
WRTA
amendment, we
drivers
get a
if
report
we
back if there's any state law that
stole Bill's
emergency
catalytic
vehicles,
converter again.
those streets take priority to be fixed if the emergency vehicle determines it's unsafe. I thought there was something. Maybe George knows, but
No, that's a great idea, Mr. Chairman.
okay. So we'll send that. Okay, Council Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was there not legislation that was done at the State House regarding the cost of maintaining private streets? I think I think the governor had signed it.
So we can get a report back on that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a while back. But at any rate, you know, I
mean, I guess if
certainly
you live
rise
on a
to,
private road,
ask
then
to
you
have my name added to
give up
that
your
as well.
right to mail.
Council Bergman.
Yeah.
followed by
I
Council
think
Toomey.
that's
Just very,
that
very
is a fair
briefly,
trade.
Get a
appreciate
P.O.
the
box like a normal person.
Councilor Merrill Carlson to have my name added originally to this as well, and I'm sure all my colleagues will sign on. But just to reiterate a point, Mr. Chairman, I think you were alluding to, it's my understanding that if somebody were applying for a new building permit on a private road, there would have to be a determination made initially whether or not that road is passable for emergency vehicles. So to drive Council Merrill Carlson's point home, and perhaps that's what you were referring to, Mr. Chairman, it seems rather difficult to ignore the fact that some of these properties are not accessible by emergency vehicles, even though they currently exist, and I'm sure they're grandfathered, but we wouldn't give the same discretion to new properties because we would find them to be
so
dangerous
many of
insofar
the
as
roads
emergency
going up
vehicles
like
can't get there.
between
So
Mill Street
the
and
point
Main
is we need
Street
to really,
and then up
as
to
soon as
the
possible,
Leicester
get on
line
this
are
issue
like
because it is a
like I
public
said, just
safety
lawless.
as
It's
much as
yeah.
anything else.
there's a bunch
Thank
of private roads there, and
Council
they're
King.
terrible, absolutely terrible.
You all set?
Yeah,
Council
you're not
Barr.
sure if you're on a road anymore or just stumbled into somebody's
Council
meth
Russell.
cook. Like, yeah, it's
Chairman,
really
just,
weird up there.
Up behind
suggestion
like
to
Wild,
the
like I grew up on
administration.
Wildwood Ave, and there's like a bunch of dirt roads up
Right,
there,
through you.
and honestly,
is
some of
that
them
the,
literally are impassable. Like
you know,
there's
we've
like
always,
pipes like,
interpreted the
coming
private
through the
streets as
road.
The property
Uh,
owner is responsible to the middle of the road.
Yeah, it's
You
bad.
know,
It's really
I
bad.
think
We used to
the
drive
public
down it
safety
like
issue
in our
is
cars
still
as like
responsible to
a
the middle of the road.
fun thing.
So
Like
it
we'd
might
like
be
bounce up and
something for you,
down
Mr.
that
Chairman,
end,
the
the Mill
administration
Street
may
end
wanna
of
look
Gates
at
Lane.
as far as if they should be knocking on the door or sending a notice.
On Wildwood Ave one time, my dad was driving down the street during a huge storm, and the entire road collapsed into a like
Make them figure it out and to spend the money.
into a
It's
sinkhole.
that simple. So, but it's
And
not
and,
safe.
and I always say now
Just
that
leave
it's
it
like
as it
I
is.
really it was
We
either
can't
our
have
crumbling
it both
infrastructure in
ways.
this
We had
city or
a discussion in
the
Public
devil
Works
was trying to
just
take him
recently,
back.
and
But
I asked for an interpretation from the water department because you hear it interpreted in different ways.
Okay, too much arm, George.
Bottom line is, if they're responsible for the middle of the road, then we have a code department, we have fire department, we have all kinds of public safety staff. They should be knocking on the door or sending a notice and telling people to make that street usable or convert it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So send that to
Yeah, we have a
Councilmember
couple of
Carlson.
those in our neighborhood too, and it's
Prior
always
to
fun. Like
doing so,
middle of the
Mr.
summer,
Chairman,
you'll have
I just
old
want to
school folk
rise
just
and
come out with like a
say that
wheelbarrow of bricks
these
or like
locations
an
that
old
I
bag of
talked
cement
about,
and just throw it in a hole and like you're not really helping at
quite
all.
honestly, the
Yeah.
city of Worcester owned. If what Councilor Russell is saying,
putting a
then the
Band-Aid
city
on
of Worcester is
a heart attack.
responsible for these roads as well. So again, at the end
Actually,
of the
I think
day,
you're
I
hurting
think,
the issue.
you know, to your
You're not making
point
it better.
about us getting a report back would be terrific. And under the current situation that we have, the reason I put this order on is because what we have today is not working on these private roads. So let's try to figure it out with the report.
It was weird. Our
So we'll send
section
that to
of
the
the street
manager as
was
amended.
public. We had
All those in
sidewalk.
favor,
but
opposed, so
the entire
ordered.
mile leading up to it was
Next item is
private.
request the manager
And
provide council with a report
for
detailing
like
the amount
10
of monies
years,
available from the
every
city
or
fund
longer,
associated
20
with
years,
vacant
like every
properties,
year or so, my mom and
as
a
well as
couple of our
those for
neighbors would
purpose
try and
said
collect money
monies can
from
be
the rest
used.
of the street
Councilmember
to
Carlson.
fix like the worst
Yes,
parts of the
Mr.
road.
Chairman. So my
And
understanding
and
is
petitioned
that
multiple
for
times to have the street turned
these
public, and everyone was always like, "No,
vacant
no way."
properties,
I'd rather
foreclosed
buy a new
properties,
car every
that
5 years
we
than
as
have
a city
4
receive
feet less on the front of my yard.
$3,000 per property from the bank and that would be to board these
Good idea.
properties up, or
It'd have to be
it
somebody
would
like could
be
like
for
move
us
around quickly,
to,
like with a
whether it's
motorcycle.
cutting the brush or mowing the
something.
lawn, putting locks on these different vacant properties. I'd like to see a report back on, first of all, how much money do we have in this account? And honestly, what is our expenses been versus what we're collecting? So again, I know that
Brenda
$3,000
Jean likes
is
her
a
private
number
road
that
in the Facebook chat.
is something from 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago. Is that number still $3,000? And is that enough? Do we need to increase that number? Or do we not? Because I don't think we know what's in that account on these vacant properties. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I
So send
kind
that
of
to
get
the
it, but
manager. All those in favor,
I don't
opposed,
think
so
I like
ordered.
the mindset of those
We
people
are in
that
13A,
really
transmitting
embrace
information
the private
communication
roads.
from
Those are the same
one
on Mill
vacancy
Street.
the
There's a
library
bunch of
board
neighbors that
directors.
have been
So
avoiding
they have until Friday,
reporting
March
potholes
3rd for
because they
deadline
think
for
the
accepting
potholes are a good way to
applications.
slow down traffic.
On Tuesday, March 7th is
It's
the
like,
date
no,
to
it's
invite
just
each
a good
candidate
way
present
to make
before
sure the rest of the
council
world knows that
in person or
you're
Zoom.
living in a
And
different
maybe we
era.
can ask the
Right.
clerk, maybe we can
One
do
where
a coffee
horses are
hour
the primary form of
at 6
transportation.
p.m. You could do that, Mr. Clerk.
It is. It's
Okay.
just this crazy. Like
Favor, opposed, so ordered.
I don't know,
And
no other way.
file
Like
the
what other way to
communication. Those in
do it, but
favor,
just like
opposed,
it's
so
just idiotic. Like you think you
Oh,
know
accept
better
it.
than everybody
Okay,
else, but
motion
you're
to
a
accept.
fucking
All those
moron.
in favor, opposed, so
That's
we
a
have
good slogan.
14A to 14L. Motion is to accept. All those in favor.
like that a
opposed,
lot,
so
actually.
ordered. 15A to 15F. Motion is to accept.
Hey,
All those in
hey,
favor,
listen.
opposed, so
There's one
ordered.
thing you need to know
Next
about
is
Worcester.
ordaining on a roll
Is that the
call
Blue Sox are
salary
never going to
from
pay
the
for
salary of the
anything.
city
Okay,
auditor.
not in
Roll
this
call.
town.
That's
Red Sox, not your
16A to
piggy bank, pal.
16C, which
That's the
also
legacy
includes
that Ed
the zoning
Augustus left
ordinance
us with,
and two zoning
and we will
ordinance
honor it
changes.
in his
So,
memory. Rest in peace.
roll
Councilor
call.
Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor G.I.?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilmember Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera? Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes.
I want the
Next
convenience
item,
of living
17A,
in
Council
Worcester
Russell's asked
with
to
the
hold that
inability
again.
to
You need
access
four
it.
votes.
Hmm.
Roll call.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Stuck in my
Councilor
home.
G.I.?
Like,
Councilor King?
No.
Think of a
Merrill
sugarcane
Yes.
farmer increasingly
Councilor
surrounded
Nguyen?
by fire
Yes.
ants.
Councilor Rivera, Councilor Rose,
Yes.
Can't go
Councilor
anywhere.
Russell?
Yes.
All I can do is
Toomey?
stem the
Yes.
tide.
Mayor Petty.
Yes. Next time is moving back to anything on the suspension before we go to 7A or Councilor Rose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was away last week, so I was hoping to get this on for the agenda today. I just wanted to, we just recently got done with the salary negotiations with our auditor, and I think it's just prudent for us to keep moving, down the line, and was hoping that we could have a similar executive session to talk about our city clerk. Our city clerk has been with us for the last 10 years and was appointed, I believe, in 2020. He has the largest city clerk operations in the Commonwealth. That includes records, he's a clerk of city council, election, city council, and of course, support staff. In my time in city council, I've seen his responsibilities grow with the permanent mail-in voting, early voting in person, split precinct, school district.
That is the most Worcester thing ever. How dare you try and improve anything? You son of a bitch.
Hey, you stop fixing my road.
A lot of changes to the way
You
that
stop
we operate
improving
as a
things.
city council with Zoom in person and so on, and the agendas and minutes and hosting virtual meetings and public meetings and so on. So I'm proposing, and I'll be thoughtful with my language here. I think I wrote it out favorably, that the City Council of the City of Worcester convene an executive session at its February 28th, 2023 meeting immediately following the conclusion of the City Council agenda for the purpose of conducting salary negotiations with City Clerk Nicolin Vangeli, and the City Council will reconvene in open session at the end of the executive
Make that
session.
man king.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of order. As you know, this issues pertaining to this particular office is overseen by municipal operations, of which I am the chair. In this particular matter, as relates to going to executive session, which is obviously to the will of the council, kind of circumvents that. Additionally, Mr. Chairman, I would say that this is not properly before us. This is not an emergency, nor is it not anticipated. And perhaps that this should be filed the way all of our orders are filed, Mr. Chairman.
Well, this is brought under suspension, so it goes on to the next calendar because it is against the open meeting law, and that's why it goes on the next calendar. You are correct. And so,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
Again, I'll just ask through the chair, when it comes to items pertaining to business under suspension, I'm going to ask through the chair to the clerk if he could explain what fits under those parameters per our rules.
Well, pretty much anything fits as long as we try to keep it respectfully.
We have specific
about
rules
1
related
or
to
2
that,
minutes.
Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair to the council, so based on the rules, items not reasonably anticipated if the body is taking an action today. I don't think the body, based on that order, is taking an action
Would
today.
you just tell me what the rules say?
There is
Not
no
the
rule.
interpretation, there's
I
specific.
just did. There is no rule pertaining to this in the sense we just have a general rule internally
Rules
that's
are,
usually
there are
kept
no
to about a
rules.
minute, unless it's an emergency type of thing.
We're
Like I
waiting
know
for
we
pinks.
talked, I think Contra Hydra brought up a few months ago when we had the issue on Mill Street. It might have been under suspension if I remember right at first, so he spoke for a few minutes.
Are councilors King and Rose fighting over Nico's love? Is that what's
This
happening
is
here
Rule
right now?
33. You just explain that. Is that
Seems
not
like it.
applicable through the chair? And I guess I would ask
All right.
perhaps the solicitor on this.
One of those-
Slide in the middle and let's
Rule
fight this
33.
out.
Yeah, one of those slap fights. Who
Just
wins?
wondering if that
King or Rose?
is something that is applicable here.
Power
Rule
slap.
33, so everybody can read. I don't have it in front of me.
Through the chair.
No, this is the chair's responsibility. I'll ask him to come up, but I don't have the book. in front of
This is
me.
a question to the
I'm going to
solicitor.
answer. Can I have the book for a second? Do you have it? I'll read it.
Getting out the legal trapper keeper.
Hey.
Serious business.
Christian must have told him that he's not stepping down from his mayor race.
Okay, this is regarding emergency items not reasonably anticipated. So any item that is on the posted agenda should not be introduced or taken up unless they qualify as an emergency item not necessarily anticipated or provide for the rule in accordance with the open meeting law. An adoption of the emergency item shall first have 2 votes. First, to adopt by 2/3 vote an emergency preamble defining the emergency, and second, to adopt itself by 2/3 votes. So the ruling in this is that we are
That's
not, we are
Mr.
not
Chairman,
voting this tonight.
There's A, B, C, D, there's
not gonna read
a
them all.
page and a half. Well, I'm not asking you to, I'm just saying you read A and B.
Okay, which section do you want me to
C, D, E.
read?
All I'm saying, I'm asking for an opinion on this to make sure that we're doing this the correct way, Mr. Chairman. Again, one of the things that we've tried to do in municipal operations, and I've tried to do as chair,
Or Krav
is to
Maga.
make sure we're following procedure and that we're having thorough processes. I certainly support the work that the city clerk has done. Again, I was not aware of this, had no communication about this as chair of MLO. And I'm just trying to make sure that I have the opportunity to do that. In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, my understanding for all the years I've been on the council, matter of fact, we've had items filed to that end, is that when we go under suspension, it's usually for emergency items and items not reasonably anticipated. If your ruling is that's applicable here, that's fine. I'll stand down. We can make your ruling. That's fine. And we'll go into executive sessions next week.
And be very clear, when it says not reasonably anticipated, that means the council is taking a vote on it. The council is not taking a vote on this item. The council will take the vote on this item next week. If this was, I would have to rule this was an emergency that's not reasonably anticipated, which is not. So people can bring it up, and that's why this is a result of the open meeting law. It goes on next week's calendar for a vote. It's not a vote of this council on this week's calendar. That's it. Okay. Okay. And Council Corio.
Thank
This
you.
should clear it up.
Probably should have done this at the beginning of the meeting, but I just wanted to see if we could have a moment of silence for Judy Griffin, who died unexpectedly. She was a community organizer, most of you know her, and a leader in the Hurd Street gang, I call them. Judy kept us on track. She was a warrior for the neighborhood, and Judy will be very missed. So if we could have a
Yes,
moment
she
of
will be
silence.
missed. She's an advocate for Hurd Street and the speeding on Hurd Street. And
That's right. And I have many handwritten notes to prove it.
Okay, get your phone out. I don't know. This lady was maybe white, so Kate will respect this moment of silence.
okay, next we're going back to 7A. Council Russell.
Mr. Chairman, under suspension, I'd like to, just so that we have it in the same well, if you will, of time under suspension, I'd like a report from the clerk's office about the appointment of the second assistant city clerk that appears on all of our stationery, and why or how that appeared without it coming before this council for a vote. So I'd like a report from the
Okay. Now go on next week's
Really?
calendar.
She's had me blocked
So
from it for a
ordered.
while, so.
Next is the executive session that the city council convened executive session at its February 14th, 2023 meeting for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to contract negotiations with the following labor unions, Local 911 and IPO Local 504. And we will not reconvene in open session. So I wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.
Wow,
And,
that's it, huh?
With your families, and probably get home and enjoy our families. Roll call.
Did they really cover everything? That's
Council Bergman?
Yes.
Council Calorio?
Yes, so.
Council
Yeah.
Gia?
Yes.
Council King?
Yes.
Council Carlson?
Yes.
Council Nian?
Yes.
Council
I think
Rose?
Fred thinks he's going
Council
into
Russell?
executive session as well.
Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
I'll see you guys in there. I'm gonna say some fucked up shit, and should be good. Wow. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't entirely clear what Christian was objecting to, other than them talking about something, and that was it. He was objecting to them talking about something. that he thought
It
talked
seemed like
about
he
MLO.
was whatever Shaun Rose added to the schedule, to it seemed like he was objecting to the fact that it wasn't coming through his committee for, I don't know.
Yeah. And it goes back to last week where there was a very long conversation about Nico's salary contract.
Right.
You weren't here last week, were you, Brian? It got really weird at one point where Nico you were, when Nico started talking about, like, I don't even have a job description. It was pretty fantastic.
What is it you'd say I do here?
Yeah.
It's what a stupid town. Yeah, I mean, they not a lot of substance tonight. I mean, interesting stuff tonight, honestly, for the dumb stuff they talk about, like they talk about, like, so many of them talk about things in such a stupid way, but there is a fascinating part of it that's interesting that they have to, like, bring up in an open meeting like this, that they don't know this stuff, like why potholes get filled the way they do, or, like, you know, and I would say probably ultimately comes down to budget.
You have a lot of money, but you seem to push it all in one direction all the time, and other departments suffering. And the crazy thing too is, like, I don't expect any of these folks to be experts on, although Kate is clearly an expert on contemporary materials for filling potholes. But aside from Kate, I don't expect anybody to be an
They're
expert
not tamped
on, like,
down enough, Brendan. That's the problem we're having.
But I mean, most of these issues that we discussed tonight, like, not even SimCity 2000, like the original SimCity, right? Like, if your residents don't have enough trees, they're going to move out. If the roads are falling apart, they're going to move out.
Yeah.
If there are no roads, like, you just build a house in the middle of nowhere and hook it up to electricity and water, like, yeah, no one's going to move into it.
I think we need to get Kate Toon to stop playing Counter-Strike and everybody to start playing SimCity a little bit, just for, like, a baseline, just like a baseline of, like, civic, like,
this is how things work.
Yeah, management. But I mean, you know, I think, like,
you can build a stadium, but it's going to cost you, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it always comes down to, like, well, like you said, like, every year we have, like, well, why aren't we doing this? Well, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? Like, because you fucking spent all their money on dumb shit, you know? Like, you're saying the police need to get extra money to wear a camera on their bodies, and then you're like, well, why does the hole in the ground? What the frick? So, City Skylines is great.
Yeah.
It is great.
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from modern city development video games. I'm just saying that there are a lot of
they could probably handle. Yeah, if we had an Amiga with
start
SimCity.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Just start easy. That's get an old Mac Classic, fire up SimCity on a floppy disk. It'll be great.
I don't know. Like, they probably, we had it at Mill Swan School, so I'm sure they could figure out how to get it. Yeah, that's the type of stuff where it's just like, it's bullshit. And my question is, do they know it's bullshit and they're just doing it anyways because that's their agenda, or do they not know it's bullshit and they're too stupid to be out in public? Like, that's what
I genuinely do feel like there's a lot of this. We discussed bike shedding probably a year ago now, like the idea that, like, the easy stuff is easy to talk about, and then it makes it sound like you got something to say when you can just pipe in and on the easy stuff. But I would fall heavily more on the latter half of what you said, that it's not enough exposure to other cities. I would bet if you went around the horn for the council, the majority of people that we're being critical of, ask them where they go. Well, like, but to describe their favorite vacation, it's going to be on, like, a cruise or at a resort, right? It's not going to be going someplace and actually interacting with people, interacting with a city.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's the thing. And that's honestly, that's the same thing when you talk about, like, so much of this stuff that we get frustrated with. And, like, talking about people like, I love my private road. Like, that's the same deal. It's like, you don't actually want to be a part of this.
Right.
You just want what you want and aren't willing to take a look at what that takes, and, like, aren't willing to look out for other people. And but the problem is in that alone is just, like, regular selfishness, greed, whatever. But the problem is that they don't realize that they get fucked too.
Right.
You know, like they think they're above it and they're not. You like they're not above it and they think they are. And I feel like that's the same. That same attitude that you see in the Facebook comments is the same thing that exists on much of the council and in much of the city government and in much of the workers in the city for the different departments. In particular, it's like you just want what you want and you want to force the world to be the way that you want it to be,
Right.
but not taking into account that you can't escape it and you're hurting other people.
Yeah. And there are still places where you can go and be happy, right? Like Vermont barely has zoning laws. Like you can buy 10 acres of land, only accessible by a muddy road with an outhouse. And
Right.
yeah, you can live very, very happily by yourself in the woods, talk
For
to the
cheap.
squirrels all day.
Yeah.
Nothing. Costs you nothing.
Yeah. Just leave it. Like, yeah, leave. If you want to be left alone,
Just
then leave
leave.
us alone. Like,
Leave us
and I
alone.
understand that it's more complicated than that, and there's a lot,
Sure.
but like, but if like that's the thing that's like, at least cop to it,
Yeah.
like at least have an understanding of what you're doing and the effect you have on other people, because like whatever, there are places that you go to Texas, it's fucking lawless down there, and they still have cities, like that they're they're less well maintained than our city is somehow, and if you ride in a convertible with the governor, you might get your fucking head blown off, but like you can do it if you want, and
Right.
so
And it wasn't better. That's the important part too. I always like I too have like fond memories of going to Spags with my father and grandfather and like fighting over boxes in free tomato plants, right? But
Yeah.
that was stupid. That's like that was just objectively dumb. Say
very
what you will about Jeff Bezos. There's lots of awful things about Amazon, but like being able to pick up my phone and order some nonsense bullshit and it'll be here tomorrow is better. It's just objectively better.
And even like the part of it that's like pretending that there's some like there's some inherent value in like that it was better at Spags because it just was first is like, so like, listen, I don't use Amazon. I decided 5 years ago I wasn't going to bother with Amazon. I'm not going to give that guy any money.
Sure.
And perfectly happy.
Mhm.
But yes, of course, like I take a couple day hit on any whim that I have. And yeah, there's something to be said for that. But also like I'm not trumpeting the value of like, well, I wait longer and I don't have a bag to put my stuff in, and that's better. It's like, it's just, that's what I'm talking about. Like the obtuseness of saying it's better because it is older or because that's the way it was when you became conscious. Is like so silly. Like you can think it's better. You can think that there's some reason why like not having a shopping cart or whatever is better, but you have to have a good reason. And they never have a reason. It's just like, well, that's how I grew up and look at me, I'm fine. Like, you're not.
No, you're not.
Absolutely
You're
not.
actually not.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're on Facebook all the time. You are not okay.
We also have therapy now. You need
If we had a real healthcare system in this country, you would be being monitored at all times because you're out of your fucking gourd. So yeah, I think that is the thing that is like, yeah, they went to executive session and they're not coming back. Yeah, and there's a lot of, listen, there's great thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's great thing. My mom worked at Spags, and it was a really great place. They took care of their workers.
Mhm.
As a stay-at-home mom, to be able to have like a part-time job where like it would like it actually brought value to her life is incredible. And there's lots of great, there's a trade-off there. Things were, like that was the way you got cheaper stuff at the time.
Yep.
Bags was to forego that stuff. And again, that's what I'm saying. There's an argument to make. There's an argument to be made for private roads, but it's not the one that they're making. If you want to sit here and just say to me like, well, I don't want to have a sidewalk in front of my house and I don't want to lose frontage on my house. Like, I get that, but pretending that it's not a trade-off and pretending that there isn't like really good Just say you're making a choice. Don't say like, just have some, just back it up.
And acknowledge that there's always a through line as well too. Like
Right.
the pulling, like again, just using Spags as the example, you can pull that out as just a moment in time and let it float out there. But ignoring like polio and the Ku Klux Klan, like you got to kind of package it all together. Like
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Have we taken some hits with things like Amazon and Target and consolidation of retail? Absolutely. But the fact that somebody now in Worcester, especially somebody with less economic means, can go to like one place like a Walmart or a Target and do all of their shopping and basically on it, the way that access things that are global, that's huge. That's an enhancement to life.
Yeah.
Streets, it's actually an improvement.
Streets are good.
Like, streets have done a lot for us. They're
I
not perfect. Sometimes people drive fast on them. They get icy sometimes.
You know what we should do? Put a bunch of holes in them and then trick people into driving slower. But it's I mean, like all this stuff. There again, there's always a trade off. Yes, we're because of the but also that stuff is not in a vacuum either. Like saying that like, oh well, we have to trade the convenience of Amazon and Walmart and Target for the workers having like better, like bad conditions and all that stuff. It's like, no, we don't actually have to choose between those two things. Like we don't have to choose between those two things. For some reason we do, but we don't have to. Weird, like to bring in my professional world right now, so I'm sure this has been affecting people's like entertainment lives, but all these shows are getting canceled constantly. Like from Netflix is just canceling things left and right. HBO is canceling things and pulling them off the service. Every new show, even if they're doing pretty well, pretty much has a 50-50 shot of getting canned. The show I was just working on, they didn't even finish. They just cut it and are writing it off, along with 5 other shows at AMC right now. And people are just like, oh well, it's terrible, but it's the nature of the business. And it isn't, though. What's happening is that the Writers Guild, the Directors Guild, and a couple of the other the SAG-AFTRA and a couple of the other like unions in the next 4 years have their contracts are coming up right in a row. So the studios and the producers and the content generators are drying up the landscape of production so that people will be desperate for work when it comes time to negotiate their contracts. So all these shows that they're pulling all these shows off the services so that residuals aren't coming in. So people aren't making money off of the work they've already done that's in their contracts. They're cutting every show so that there's only one season of each show, because during the first season is when the pay is lowest for everybody. After that, it bumps up. And they're doing it so that they as leverage in contract negotiations. And that's the type of thing that goes on. They have the ability to take the hit in the short term because they know long term it's going to help them out a lot. People are going to panic. Writers and directors and actors are going to panic, and they're going to settle for a worse deal. It's the same thing that my union did last year. We had a chance to strike and shut down production and secure ourselves a better deal. Instead, they voted, the 2 unions that actually hold power in our international have much higher voting share. They voted to go back to work and accept a 3% raise, which is a pay cut in inflation, just to keep work going. And that's because people were scared of losing money, of losing out on work. And that's the games that get played. But that's the type of thing that goes on, is like when they hold so much of the power, we feel like we're forced to make choices between the two. I'm forced to choose between, fair working conditions and pay, and my, beautiful new car that I love so much and I don't want to have to get rid of. Like that's what it is. That's what it comes down to with all this stuff. All these corporations, all these stores, all the modern life things, all the websites not fucking working anymore. Like it's a false choice, but it is a choice that we get trapped into. And it's a bummer, and all this stuff I think kind of plays into it. This is small version of it, but your potholes not being filled are just a microcosm of this macro system that we find ourselves in today. That was so much better back in the day, and life was just like better when my road was private and my statues were racist and bags had no fucking bags, baby.
I just because while you're mentioning Amazon in passing, I just have a theory that I have nothing to base this on at all. That the new Amazon facility that replaced the Greendale Mall never going to open, and that's going to be what gets declared the city's warming cooling center / emergency shelter.
Interesting.
I have nothing to base that on at all. I don't think it will either. It's I mean, they're closing way too many over the last 2 quarters, or delaying opening. That one, there's just something funny about. Yeah, I feel like
there's something going on there.
Used.
They're also I was just reading today, they're still taking proposals on the Denholm building. The last 2 tenants are moving out now. I'm very curious about what that looks like. Yes, Sally, it's not open at all. It seems done. They supposedly they're still working in there, but it's a dead zone over there. It's so crazy because like I was really fully expecting there to be just an insane amount of traffic coming through there.
Just this really well lit empty parking lot. It's a weird. It looks like a giant shipping container that's incredibly well lit. But yeah.
I don't know what's going on down there. I meant to look into that the other day. We were downtown. It was the purchase is done. The work, that first round of work is done. I don't know what's going on there. I'd missed your comment before me and Self Mom. Sorry. Yes, that's the real thing. I wasn't saying that my car is the most important part of it. That's the real story, is that I just am being a little stinker. Yeah, I mean that's definitely the game. That's what they did. They overexpanded. Their first overexpansion was to close all the other bookstores, and then they're just doing it with every industry since. So yeah, I mean I think it's
which is the only reason I brought it up, because there is a parallel to what you were talking about with your industry, in that when you force desperation on a consumer, you eliminate all of their options, and then you introduce a sense of desperation for, in your case, content. In the case of Amazon, shit being here by the end of the day if I just order early enough. That really does impact people's psychology, and they become desperate.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean it's 100% true, and that's part of the reason why, like, a few years back, listen, I was Amazon Prime. I would buy dumb shit all the time, or useful shit all the time, and it just occurred to me that like this is how they do it. This is how they do it, and I'm not desperate, but there are a lot of people that are, and the more people that just go along, then it's whatever. It's just that's how it chose to do it. It's kind of the same deal that I've been trying to figure out, is like not buying anything besides locally sourced like meat. And it's hard. It's harder. It's so much harder. I go to Lilac Hedge farm. They're pretty great. But it requires a lot more planning. It requires a longer trip. It requires kind of taking what you can get sometimes, and in your modern way of thinking, that is not really how things go. And so it's just yeah, like you said, like you're so used to just like not having to overthink things and just kind of going about your life, and things, the things you need just coming to you, that it is what they want. That's how they want you to think, so that when you don't have that, then Mr. Bezos, I will do anything, please.
Yeah.
Take away my warehouse.
Which, and to be perfectly fair, I mean, I also, just because I'm aging rapidly, I fully expect that my take on like Amazon and my dependence on Amazon for my generation will be no different than my grandfather's generation, really not knowing what to do with themselves when Spags closed. because it also becomes very much a way of life that you are dependent on. And could I actually pull up my phone and go somewhere else to buy some shit? Yeah, absolutely. But the convenience factor really does change things. Yeah.
You know what though? It's been interesting, like having to do workarounds and stuff like that about like like how much better, like people always like, the assumption for a while was like, well, Amazon's prices were so much better, and for a while that was true, and for some things it still is true, but you can absolutely get a better deal on almost anything. As far as like any equipment, like electronics, anything like that, like Amazon almost has worse prices than almost anywhere else. But because you're just so, but in finding smaller places and going to, trying to find local sources for all this stuff, it is like interesting how much my thinking has changed. Like I never even think to go to Amazon for something anymore. And there's nothing that I've missed out on. And just going to stores again,
actually going places and seeing people, like interacting with other humans and whatnot.
Going to CC Lowell is just been a game changer for me. Really just got a bunch of pens and pencils there. It's fucking great. So I mean, I think that this stuff that most everything they talked about tonight is dumb cyclical, Worcester stuff. But especially this year, I think it brings up a lot of points about like we do need to kind of drastically change the way we think about how this city government can work, and that the solutions to at least some of these problems are a matter of like 2 counselors changing.
Really? Yeah. I mean, again, just the easy stuff tonight, talking trees, right? And it's cool that people want to talk about trees. They should be talked about. We have lots of activists that are working on that front. We do actually have a tree commission that Bill Shander's not a part of.
Right.
Like the thing that should be said on a night like tonight is, okay, we're going to take a vote. Tree commission, you have 2 years to come up with an actual master plan for trees and their maintenance in the city of Worcester. We want monthly updates on your work. And if you don't complete that in 2 years, we're going to kill you, whatever, or send you to Auburn. We have departments. Someone made a comment about micromanaging in the comments tonight. And that's just it, right? Like, this is not the stuff the council should be doing. Like, if they're going to be there, this is another meeting that should have been an email. If they're going to be there and we're going to be here, there should be at least some meat involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
new ideas, not trees.
And again, I feel like, a lot of it, they're so used to doing it this way where they're just like, oh, we just got to fill the agenda. I have to just be seen saying something. And, then that's why things operate the way they do. And if there were, if people were just bringing things to the table when they were actually important things, and I'd be happy if every meeting was this short, if the 4 things they talked about were like meaningful and had action behind them.
Right.
But they rarely ever do, and and that's what's hard to deal with. Hi Molly, happy Valentine's Day. I hope Molly has a digital stalker right now. Somebody's trying to steal her identity by creating a fake Molly Cronin Instagram profile. So again, websites don't work anymore. There's nothing to do about that. A great online bookstore, bookshop.org. People should check it out. When you buy books from this, it's like a consortium of bookstores, local bookstores, and the money goes to all local bookstores. So when you buy a book, the money goes to basically a bookstore of your choosing, a local bookstore of your choosing. So like Jess uses it, and there's a shop called Harriet's Bookstore, and like you support them and you're still shopping online, and it's still like the same convenience. Anything you want is there. I've bought like out of print books. I've bought, graphic novels, stuff like that on there. So that's one resource to check out if anybody's interested. I think we nailed it tonight. I can't say much. Yeah, Root and Press, great. Bedlam Books is a great resource as well. They have a really good selection there. They have really cool books at Bedlam, and they do good smoothies, and they let us do shows there sometimes. It's pretty fun. Brennan, you got anything else you want to address tonight?
No, I have nothing.
We nailed it. God damn, we're good at this.
Hit it on the park.
As always, please make sure that you're buying Bill's bumper sticker that is for sale, supporting Worcester Sucks and I Love It, billshaner.substack.com. Check him out on there. I'm sure that's what he's doing tonight, is working on a piece. He wouldn't be, on a date with his lovely significant other, I don't think. I can't imagine that. Listen to my podcast, Parts Unknown, wrestling podcast I do with Boston comedian Will Smalley. This week we talked about the Royal Rumble, and we recast a WWE faction called the Bloodline in multiple different genres as if it's a movie. We're stupid idiots. We have fun. It's fun. You don't have to really like wrestling to listen to it. We talk about a lot of other stuff, but we're cool and good. So listen to that. Buy some of our t-shirts, wct3k.storeenvy.com. All the best designs. We're trying to decide right now if we can and should put up a Nico themed shirt. We're just having some behind the scenes debates about whether or not we're allowed to do that. But
anybody in the comments who went to law school past the Mass Bar, we'd love to have a conversation without outing you. So
yes, yeah. We did forget to mention before libraries when we're talking about books. Check out libraries, everybody. Worcester has a particularly good library system. Really incredible. Yeah, I really want to make a Nico Suave shirt, and we're just trying to decide whether or not we're allowed to do that. So but buy some of our shirts. I haven't even seen the numbers yet. I don't even know if we sold a single shirt. Travis is on vacation, so we'll see about that. But please get some of our shirts so we can buy more equipment to do more dumb stuff. We got a lot of dumb stuff planned this summer, everybody. So check it out. Yeah, get your library card. There's so many amazing resources when you have a library card in Massachusetts, either through Boston Public Library or anywhere in the Central Mass system. As Matt is sitting right here. So there's movies you can rent. There's streaming services that you can get. There's audiobooks. There's everything. Really, really incredible stuff. So, we do. We can give you if you want to send us a DM, we can give you an address to send it to. It's printed through the website, so they don't send them to us. But if you want to, I'll give you my address. You can send it here, and I'll drop it off to you if you like to do that. But send us a DM. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope everybody has a lovely Valentine's Day. If you don't have a Valentine, me and Brendan are your Valentine.
Happy Valentine's Day.
We love you guys so much. We'll see you next Tuesday, everybody.
Have a great night.
Goodbye. We love you.